you who are coming in, please be sure to click that like button, click that thumbs up button. I know I said I was supposed to burn a candle in this video, so what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to create a video just for that. Like, I'm going to go live just for the purpose of doing the candle before the thing is over, before the day is over, because I do realize that I said I was going to light a candle, and I literally just thought about it while I was setting up this live. So I'm back again today, and in this video, I really just want to focus on, some of the frustrations I've encountered navigating social media, being out here in these social media streets, learning how to scroll past, learning how not to give my energy to certain things, learning how to differentiate grifters, sheep herders, people who simply want attention from people who are really trying to align us, people who are really trying to get us to come into alignment, trying to get us. And when I say alignment, understand that alignment is not just about us being linear. Like, when we hear the word line inside of alignment, we think that, some of us can go to the place of thinking that this is like standing in a line because simply you hear the word line within there. And so, no, alignment can be formed in a circle, alignment can be forming a star, alignment can be forming a triangle, alignment can be forming a square, alignment can be forming an octagon, an infinity symbol. Like, those of us who are just trying to position ourselves in a way in which we realize we're connected, we realize our roles, we realize our purposes, we realize the just the uniqueness of our DNA and how that DNA can connect with other people's DNA, and we could unlock things and things can be revealed to us. And so this is that journey for me. You know, I know that there are a lot of people on social media who are grifters, who see it as an opportunity to come up, who see it as an opportunity to make money. And I'm not knocking it. If that's what you use social media for, that's what you use social media for. But let's be clear, I am a person that will point it out. I am a person that if I feel like that's what's going on, I'm going to say that's what I feel like is going on. Just like people have their opinions of me, I have my opinions of them. Just like I said in another video, if you side-eyeing me, I'm side-eyeing you. I've been following a being on TikTok, and she's black, and she's lesbian. I'm thinking, and her name on social media is Abundance of Joy. And I benefit from a lot of what she's saying because it affirms and it empowers a lot of the things that I teach as a person who practices Layler spirituality, which means let him, let her, I am whole. But I feel like it's important, um, now just as, while we investigate people, while we truly seek to understand people, because like there are people who are being raised up, and I'm not saying that this is true about Abundance of Goodness. I don't really know her well enough outside of the things that she says on her live to know who, she really is as a person. I know that a lot of times our social media persona is about presenting the best part of ourselves. It's about sharing the best part of ourselves with the people who follow us. And that's not what you get with me. You can go through my videos. What you see is what you get. Rarely, as I've gotten older, I do it less. But, there are videos where I have been smoking weed in front of the camera. There are videos where I've been drunk in front of the camera. There are videos where, I was really in my sexy bag, and, I was just twerking and dancing and feeling sexy. Like I'm a multifaceted person. I have different dimensions, different layers, and if I can't share that with the people who are on my platform, then I'm not being legitimate. I'm not being authentic. And so because that's something that I want to do, I want to be I want to be authentic. I want to be sincere with y'all. So I try, you know, to show y'all the different sides of myself. I don't just get on here and just show you one side of myself. And a lot of people say, "Oh, well, that confuses some people because, you know, you're showing them too much." And so when they're going through your content, it's hard to know what videos. And I probably should get better at putting these videos with these videos and this video, like organizing videos by videos. I'm not gonna make an excuse for it. I'm not gonna make an excuse for it. I just feel like a lot of my messages do intersect. I do feel like I jump around in a lot of my videos, and I feel like that's my style of teaching, or that's my style of disseminating information. That's my style of communicating. But I noticed there's a culture on social media in general, and I'm seeing it very heavily on TikTok of having this, like sharing your platform with the opposition. Like the only person that you want to bring on your live or bring up to hear from is a person who is in complete opposition of what you're saying. And I'm trying to understand that as a person who is trying to, bring certain stars in alignment, that is trying to get us together. Because I understand that much like a chessboard, different pieces are required in order to even be a part of the game, to even be a part of whatever this is we're calling it. You have to have your king, your queen, your bishop, your rook, your knight, your pawn. You have to have all of these pieces in order to even strategically be a part of whatever this is. And so I am not a person who feels like, even though I feel like I'm whole, I do feel like I can give you king energy, queen energy, bishop energy, rook energy, knight energy, pawn energy, but I may not always be centered. I may not be centered in that energy. I may not be centered in my soldier energy. I may not be centered in my warrior energy. I may not be centered in my like you need all of these different energies. You need these different energies. You need them. And just on so many different platforms, you don't see us opening ourselves up to share space with people who are centered in different energies. You see people centering themselves, and that's something that I'm legit trying not to do. Like I've said in multiple videos, I'm open to people taking my content and adding critique. I'm open to people sharing their opinions. I'm open to you leaving comments in the comment section, but if you leave a comment in the comment section and it in no way aligns with what I'm saying, then my question becomes, why are you even here? If nothing that I'm saying is aligning with, you have a completely different opinion that is versus what I'm saying, then why are you even here? How do we even connect if your message is in total opposition to my message? You know? But I definitely feel like we are moving into a space where a lot of major shifts are happening. A lot of things can happen. You can feel it esoterically. You can feel the energy shifting. You can feel you can you can just feel it. You can feel that people who have been in power are struggling to maintain power. I watched the video where Beyonce and Kelly Rowland recently endorsed Kamala Harris. Now, I'm not finna go where I would normally go with this. Like, I'm not gonna go where I would normally go with this because, it's almost petty month and I really, really could slide into pettiness. But seeing how, like, it just amazes me how so many mainstream celebrity artists will not will not use their art and their storytelling to explain to you why they are endorsing certain politicians, why the values of these political parties are so important to them. But then just randomly they will show up and support a politician. And you have to understand that when you use celebrity influence to help you with your campaign, that speaks volumes to who you are as a political figure. When you have billionaires and millionaires to come and to endorse you as a way of getting the people to endorse you, that's diabolical. That's diabolical. When you have people who are nowhere near our tax bracket to come and endorse you as a way of influencing the vote, and then y'all want us to take the voting process seriously, that's diabolical. It's diabolical to have people like Kelly Rowland was talking about how her children are gonna. It's just diabolical. It's diabolical. And it was the same. It was the same stuff Trump did. You know, the same stuff Trump did when he got elected the last time. So I'm not saying what Trump did wasn't diabolical either. It's all just diabolical. You never hear these celebrities really have an opinion. You hear them quiet the whole time when it comes to politics. You know, Michael Jackson, he started talking a lot about politics before he died. You know, his music became, all I want to say is they don't really care about us. And I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Like some of his songs really, really caused us to really, really think about ourselves as individuals, to think about ourselves as people. But not a lot of music um, has, the type of messaging that speaks to, who you endorse, like why you endorse a certain party, why your views align with a certain party, but just to see, it's like they did the same thing with Obama. It just shows you that there's an agenda where they are all aligning themselves and they're all connected. And I just want us, the consumer, I want us, the people, like the actual people, not the robots, not the drones, not to say that, not nothing against, the robots, not nothing against the clones, because, they everything comes from source. So I'm not excluding robots and AI and clones. I'm just saying individuals who are experiencing oppression right now, individuals who are feeling stepped on and overlooked in silence, like individuals who are feeling disenfranchised and who are feeling unheard and who are feeling left out of the conversation because they don't support the politics. I just want us to do a better job of aligning ourselves. I just want us to not be so in survival mode and not so in our pain, not so caught up in church hurt, not so caught up in the trauma of what our ancestors have participated in, whether it was willingly or not. I just don't want us to become so bogged down in this that we miss an opportunity to do something for ourselves. That's all I'm saying. I just don't want us to miss the opportunity. This is our time. Like while everybody is like, while it's the henny penny stuff going on, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. While they're fear mongering, telling us to vote or die, this is an opportunity because let me tell you something. Whoever gets into that seat, they they don't care about people who live below the poverty line. They don't care about the working class who is not making above minimum wage. They don't care about us. That's the collateral damage. So I just want those of you who are competent, conscious, and capable to discipline yourself enough to seize this opportunity to build a collective for yourself, to build a collective for ourselves that cannot be easily infiltrated. Because the reality of it is, as soon as it really, really get off the ground, it's always going to be an op that has been watching the whole time, waiting to infiltrate. I literally just, you know, like I'm not bringing this up as a means of dragging, but I just had a person in my life who was just always on live disseminating information. I mean, not on live, but just always making videos on TikTok disseminating information. Had so much information inside their head, you know, and was able to give so much, you know, advice and so much wisdom. But at the end of the day, what were you planning on doing with that? Like, what's the end goal? And if you had one, you never shared it with me, which further proves that you were an op. You know, which further proves that you weren't invested in the work that I was doing, because I was you know my plan, you see my plan, you see what I'm working towards. You see me trying to build a community, a diverse community that speaks to how we show up across the economic and social spectrum, that proves that poverty, being HIV positive, being formerly incarcerated, being an addict, um, living, you know, I think I said living with HIV, but that proves that all of these stigmas that we face and have to navigate does not void us of moral consciousness, does does not make us people that don't care about what's going on in the world, that don't want to, because we don't have the same political agenda or we don't value the politics of this nature. I think it's important to debunk a lot of these stigmas that make it look like, oh, because you're poor, or because you're black, or because you're queer, or because you're trans, or because, you know, you have a criminal record, or any of these things, because you self-medicate, because you do any of these things, that you're not capable of engaging in the conversations that are happening, and have a valid opinion, or have valid ideas, or have valid information that you want to contribute to the mainstream conversation. And so, and I think that's why I have stayed at the level that I have stayed at. Hey, Golden Queen. I think that's why I've stayed at the level that I've stayed at for so long, is because the grassroots level has been important to me, because I want to continue to connect with people who obviously will not be heard otherwise, who we decide we want to delete or push to the background, and we want to platform our grifters. We want to platform and censor our grifters and our sheep herders and our gatekeepers, who are strategically only going to amplify the voices of those who have been truly, truly invested in maintaining this system of oppression. Like who have been deeply invested in maintaining this system of oppression. Like, it's one thing to endorse Kamala. It's another thing to say, you know what, I endorse Kamala, but just because I endorse Kamala, that doesn't mean that I'm going to silence the voices of those who, for valid reasons, do not support Kamala. Let me say that again for the slow folk in the back row. It's called playing the whole tape. Just because, just because I endorse Kamala, just because I support Kamala Harris, which I do not, but for those people that do, just because I support Kamala Harris, it doesn't mean that I'm going to censor, silence, or demonize or alienate the voices and opinions of those who do not support her. Just because I support Trump, just because I'm in favor of Trump, which I am not, I do not support Trump, but just because that person is in favor of Trump, supports Trump, believes in Trump's values, and follows Trump, I am going to censor, silence, and alienate them because they support Trump. I am interested in individuals. I am interested in building a collective of individuals who have the bandwidth and the capacity and the understanding to be able to hear from Trump's party, to be able to hear from the Republican Party and to be able to decipher what is helpful and what is not, and to be able to sincerely and authentically hear from opposition without demonizing them, without making them the monster, without trying to make them the boogeyman. So I can hear from Kamala's party, from the Democratic Party, and I am able to hear that information, and I am not going to be so upset by it that I am now censoring. And see, this is what I don't like about a lot of our gatekeepers. Anytime you hear Hope Giselle open her mouth, you are never going to hear Hope say anything that's remotely positive about the Republican Party. Why? Because she is bought by the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is what's funding her. The Democratic Party is what's giving her coins. The same thing with Candace Owens. I honestly don't know what party Candace Owens is with right now, because I know she ain't with the Democratic Party. I think she's a Trump supporter, but she's really been vague with that. Like Judge Joe Brown, it's like, are you a Trump supporter or not? What's the tea? What's going on? And so you hear a lot of these people who are invested in the political system. Like sometimes you hear them talk about the politics, but you don't really know who they're for. And then people who, seem to be so knowledgeable. If you are truly as knowledgeable as you claim to be about politics, then there's no way in the world that you could just be totally 100% the Republican Party or totally 100% the Democratic Party. There's no way. Like if you are truly here for the politics and a love of politics and a love of policy making and a love of lawmaking and understanding laws that are beneficial to people across the social and economic spectrum, then there's no way in the world that you could be just totally in opposition of one party simply because of a mascot. Because at the end of the day, that's what Donald Trump is. Donald Trump is currently vying to be the mascot of this country and the representative of the Republican Party. Kamala Harris is vying to be the mascot of this country and, represents the Democratic Party. And let's be clear, none of them, like, they're not gonna be calling the shots. At this point, via the saturatedness of corruption, how corruption has saturated itself into our government. And if you don't, it doesn't take a rocket scientist or even a computer analyst or even someone who graduated from one of the top colleges in the country to see the saturation of corruption when we have 8 states that are considering reinstating slavery, when Mississippi just recently reenacted laws that were resemblance of Jim Crow, when Louisiana just basically made it okay for you to put up Christian literature everywhere, the Ten Commandments everywhere, and also to remove the LGBT remove trans language teachers who taught all that. That is under scrutiny, and you will be penalized for teaching any of that in the school system. So we don't need a rocket scientist. We don't need a degree. We don't need a masterate degree in public education to decipher the truth that the government is beyond corrupted. You don't need that. You're like all you have to do is just be paying attention. When you have people trying to censor, because you can't erase. I get upset when you're attempting to erase, but you can't erase my existence. You can censor the language that verifies my existence. You can censor language and terminology that validates my presence, that validates my existence. But you can't erase my existence. Like you can't erase the fact that I've existed. That's not real. Like my footprint, my just that my carbon footprint is here. I am existing. I am being. So you can't erase the fact that I've existed, but you can censor language that confirms and affirms my presence. And so I think that's what a lot of LGBT people are worried about and concerned about, you know, and it's just the unfortunate part for me is that I really want Kamala. My prayer is that Kamala will get elected. I am not going out to the polls to elect her. I am not putting any energy into that system. But my prayer, like my prayer, I pray to the ancestors and I say, hey, please elect Kamala. And I want Kamala to win by the electoral college vote. Or I want Donald Trump to win by the electoral college vote. No, no, no. Now that would really show y'all something. Because I want, like I would love for Kamala to win the popular vote, which is the vote of the people. I want Kamala to win the popular vote. And then if Donald Trump mess around and win that electoral college vote, I want to see what y'all gonna give, because that's how he got elected the last time. But I want Kamala to win, and then when Kamala wins, I want y'all to see that the same things that y'all feared happening with Trump in office are the same things that have the potential to happen with Kamala in office. Because Roe versus Wade did not happen under Trump's administration. It happened under the Biden administration. And if Biden has the power to veto things. The president has the last say so. The president has veto power. The Supreme Court ain't the last stop. If the Supreme Court was the last stop, then why the hell we need a president? Why we can't just have the Supreme Court as the president? Like why if nothing can trump what the Supreme Court says, why is there even a need for a president? So I really honestly um, want I want Kamala to win so that y'all could see that the same things that they're threatening, because y'all say the president matters, but then y'all tell us it's so backwards and forwards with y'all. Y'all say the president don't matter. Is your local and state government. That's what matters. Focus on that. Focus on that. Don't worry about the president. But then when it comes time to vote for the president, y'all be like, vote or die. This the election. Y'all gotta do it. Y'all gotta do it. Y'all gotta get out there and vote. Now, one of the things that's happening in New York that I find really, really interesting is New York has has something going on where they are reconstructing the Constitution, where they're reconstructing the state constitution to protect them from a lot of the stuff that y'all saying Trump party is getting ready to do when he get into office. Now, and I think it's just really, really just getting people involved and getting people out there. But I think that New York is going to be safe. I do think that that bill is going to pass in New York, where they can put things into their state constitution that will protect them from some of the stuff that's about to happen in in the federal constitution. I do feel like New York is going to be a safe haven for a lot of LGBT folks and queer folks. Where the shenanigans is happening around the country is where the shenanigans have always happened. States that have always been homophobic and transphobic and just downright, against LGBTQ policies are becoming even more phobic. And it's because they're seeing the power that the LGBT community is getting on a national level. They're seeing all these examples. The internet is good, but the internet can also be a downfall, because what these less progressive states of consciousness are looking at is how much power the LGBTQIA community is gaining on a national scale, and fear that, because they look at it as a corruption, and so fear that that type of mindset or that type of consciousness is going to come into their communities is what's causing the gatekeepers to come out and create more divisive policy that are designed to push the LGBT community members further from a power grab, if that makes sense. And I think it's all necessary. I don't think that every state is meant to be a place that is going to be celebratory of the LGBT community. Now, in theory, that's beautiful, but as long as we on this planet, as long as we in this matrix, opposition is going to be a real thing. That's what makes it a game. If everybody agrees with you, then what's the point? Like, if everybody agree with you, what's the point of the matrix? What's the point of a capitalistic society? What's the point of elitism? What's the point of classism? What's the point of racism if everybody agrees with you? So I definitely think that it's necessary to have certain states that are like that. And unfortunately, because there's been so much support nationally for the LGBT community, nationally for the queer community, via the federal government, a lot of these states is feeling like, oh no, y'all trying to indoctrinate us, y'all trying to make us all, the alphabet community. And this the thing that gets me. And this is why Lay Lim Lay Lur is so important to me. It's because we use the government to be descriptive about what it means to be trans. Like, we use government language or colonial language to be specific about what it means to be trans, about what it means to be non-binary, what it means to be intersex, what it means to be, trans, what it means to be like all of these definitions have been co-opted by gatekeepers and by the government. And so by not allowing the people to define who they are for themselves, it's made the LGBTQ agenda problematic as a whole. Just because the people are not really defining themselves anymore, the government has taken the LGBT community and has begun to define what it is. Like, just like defining blackness, just like defining womanhood, just like defining manhood. Like, the government should not have the power to tell us who we are. We, the people, should be telling the government who we are. When your government's job is to protect, is to use your taxes to develop the infrastructure that protects you. And when you have ideas, when you have visions, there's resources available to bring them in to manifestation, pending the fact that, they don't harm, other community members intentionally. I mean, because you can't avoid harm. Harm is just a part of life. But that's what the government is supposed to do. The government is supposed to create a safe space for us to learn about each other, for us to thrive, and like take the money that they get from us and use it as resources to make sure that we're creating school systems, that we're creating healthcare systems, and we're creating just societies that are nurturing to the people. And so that's what the government is supposed to do. And the government ain't trying to do none of that. The government is basically just trying to say, look, y'all our slaves, y'all work for us. We're telling you who you are, and this is what you're going to do. You're going to listen, you're going to follow the rules, and you're going to do what we tell you to do. Period. That's what we got. That's what kind of government we got. We got a government that's gonna tell us who we are, tell us what to do, get a celebrity to sing about it, and come to the rally, and y'all gonna vote for it. That's what we got. This is just really just like some bottom of the barrel, bottom feed. But like I said, this is due to much society. This is due to much society, you know. I feel like this video was kind of like a lot of rambling, because I'm processing real time. So it is what it is. Sometimes it's gonna be like that. Sometimes I'm gonna ramble. But in the rambling, points are being made. I'm trying to be thoughtful about how I talk. Because years ago it would just been like, so I'm really, really trying not to give that. You know what I'm saying? So like there are thoughts happening in all the rambling, and I'm just trying to imagine a government that's actually modeling autonomy for us, that's modeling sovereignty for us, that's modeling, um, just not raising up people who strategically align with your end goal, which is to keep the people under your thumb. Like, if it is some, hey Aaron, if it is some ancestors out there in the cosmos, like some aliens, some interdimensional beings, I just want them to tell me what it is that I have to do. I mean, like, I'm not even in a rush. I don't even know if I'm ready, to be more than what I am right now. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't even know if I'm ready. Like, I feel like I have a calling to do more and to be more, but I'm not so arrogant or conceited that I feel like I'm ready. That's why one of the reasons why I stand to the back of the line and get to the back of the bus, because I'm not so arrogant or cocky that I truly, honestly believe that I'm ready to lead, or I'm ready to, take up that mantle. You know what I'm saying? And be like a figurehead amongst some people. Like, I don't, um, part of me, has that desire, but the other part of me just want to go in the woods and build and pitch a tent and have some fresh water and have a garden, mind my damn business. Like, that Gemini, my Gemini be Gemini. But um, if there are some ancestors, well, I'm not gonna say if, because I do believe there are. But this is something that I'm about to start praying for, and like being really, really intentional about praying for. Like, I am so ready for those ancestors to intercede, and for it to be an actual shift of energy, and a shift from the ego, like a shift from centering the ego, a shift from a humbling, you know, um, not a humbling that breaks you down, or a humbling that destroys your character, but just like, because I feel like my ego has taken a lot of hits. Like, I feel like my ego has, and I feel like that is what has me in this space of understanding that perhaps I am not, ready to be centered. Perhaps I don't need to take the lead. Perhaps I don't need to be speaking to thousands or millions of people. And I think that is me being humble. That's me saying I don't need millions of subscribers. I don't need millions of followers, because I don't want to be responsible. Um, I don't want to be responsible for that many people. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure about what I'm saying. I'm sure about my message. I really, really feel in my heart that a lot of the things that I'm saying, like 99% of the things, well, I ain't going to give myself that big. I'll say 90, 80, 90. 80, 90% of what I'm saying, I think it's true, and I think that it could be used to uplift and inspire people. Some of it's me being petty, being messy, entertaining. I do that. I give that. I'm human. I'm having a flesh experience. But I really just want to see Um, I really just want to see them intervene, and I really want to see them cause a shift that humbles a lot of these beings that think that they can't be humbled. A lot of these beings who only trust in money, who only trust in what they could see, who only trust what they can hold in their hand, who believe that it's, eat or be eaten, and you have to always be taken. You have to always be taking power. You have to always be seizing power. If you're not the one that's in power, like this whole put my foot on their neck energy, this whole stomp on the devil's head energy. Like I'm beseeching them, and I'm gonna start praying for that more and more every day. I hope that they won't come here and be greater oppressors. I hope that they won't come here and be even worse. I'm hoping that they are, these divine, ancient, celestial beings that's done seen it all, heard it all, experienced it all, and they just been being patient the whole time. But I do want them to have enough empathy to be able to say, okay, enough is enough. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. I see other beings rising up. I see other beings positioning themselves to really, really guide and to really, really foster a space that is nurturing of creatives and the potential of the people. I'm hoping that these ancestors who are going to intervene are not just basically, wanting worker bees and slaves and wanting, like they're not just coming back here um, to make sure the slave race, is maintained. Like I'm just wishing for more. I'm just praying for more. Trump was talking about how they've been recruiting, rerouting the waterways to dry up certain areas. I was floored that he even spoke. Wow. Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, Aaron. It's what they're not talking about. You know, when you hear them, when you hear all of these extreme ideas coming out, it speaks to the climate that we're in esoterically. It speaks to there are forces that we're not being made aware of as the people, and if we are not tapped in, if we're not meditating, if we're not fasting, our sensories are telling us nothing. We if we're constantly consuming and constantly indulging, we're not receiving the information, we're not getting the signals, and they're harvesting our information and they're getting all the signals and all the information. And ultimately what they'll do is they'll use that against us. But when you hear all of these extreme policies and all of this extreme stuff coming up, it speaks to the time that we're living in. It's over 9 billion variables on the planet that we know of. And information is traveling faster than it's ever traveled amongst all of the people. One of the things that I think was, crucial to note is these Obama cell phones. And, the Obama cell phones are given to the people who live in poverty, those Obama cell phones. And I think, giving people free cell phones is more about controlling the content that they receive and being able to manipulate them via the content. So you giving them the cell phone so you could track them, so you could study them, and so that you can have access to their conversations, and so you can also control the content that they're being fed. And the demographic in which is taking your free cell phone. You know who taking free cell phones. Come on now, we know who taking free cell phones. We know what kind of people, for the most part, are getting them free cell phones. And so this is all a part of it. It's all a part of the social engineering of society. And so I'm just like at this point, if they're willing to do all of these, because what you were saying that Trump is talking about doing is just, it's demonic. There's no other way to put it. It's demonic. And if they're talking about doing those types of things, they're talking about doing this type of stuff because some celestial event is about to happen, some type of event that's about to happen, and they are really, really trying to bring the people to their knees because they don't want us rising up. They want us to stay where we are, and this is like a last attempt to maintain power. Like I feel like this election, this era that we're in, these next couple of years, this is a desperate attempt to maintain power because a shift is happening now. You see it with all of the people who are being exposed in mainstream. And I just think it's ironic how we focus on P. Diddy. But somebody brought this to my attention. Shout out to Seven Bozeman on Understanding the Wholeness Network. Wasn't Hugh Hefner doing all this stuff first? Like, didn't he have a whole Playboy mansion? We think that all of those girls that Hugh Hefner had come into that mansion was 18 years old. Like, this has been happening in our nation. This has been happening in our country. There's been sex trafficking of minors, of young children. Like that's been going on. They've been taking young girls from their home, and like that stuff been happening. They've been selling girls off over there in China. you know they were aborting 60 million female babies a year. Like, it's always been some feces happening in this reality. It's always been going on. So I just feel like it's time for a celestial intervention. My faith in politics is not what it used to be. My faith in the system has declined. I'm just ready to see what's going on celestially, to see if, hey, is this the best we got? Because it's time for a higher court to intervene, because is this the best we got? Really? He wants to reverse it all, allegedly. Magazines and all. What you talking about, magazines? Okay, so I did promise that I was going to read from my book today. And I'm going to read magazine, okay, magazine, Playboy. Yeah, he was a part of all of it. Sure was. So the chapter I'm going to, well, the recollecting reflection I'm going to read from is Punishment from the Dreamers. It is the first recollecting reflection in the book. I may not read all of it, depends. But I'm definitely going to read from the first recollecting reflection, which is called Punishment for Dreamers. Let's start at the first recollecting reflection by saying we value knowledge. We've always liked to learn and study, but not necessarily things that were presented in the classroom. We once ate a cockroach at age 4. If anyone asks, tell them it was in the name of science, though, okay? Indeed, it was the curiosity for us. We learn through experiencing truth, living boldly in that moment. Such a curious little mind our ancestors were. This has not always been acceptable by those trained to download or learn somewhat foreign information through colonial methods. The year was 1982. The place was New Orleans, Louisiana, the city that cared for God. For those For those with less accumulated wealth, it was the home of some giant rats, 24-hour liquor stores, po' boys made with commodity cheese, and a thriving civilization of roaches. It was home sweet home, be it ever so crumble. This was the first school we attended was Andrew Jackson Elementary. This was where we began our journey through what the colonizer called elementary school. Oddly, not one Caucasian went to our school, even though it was named after one. Quite puzzling, to say the least. We didn't have access to them at this age, outside of those glorious and alluring depictions displayed of them throughout the media in that era. This fact created an adoration combined with the mystical fascination for them in our young, impressionable, and vulnerable mind. We could go and see them if we got in trouble with the law, felt sick, or had to go to a hospital, or if we were drinking down in the quarter, but we were only 5 years old and perfectly healthy, so we never really saw Caucasians. They were sort of like a great legend in our minds until we were introduced to the construct of racism. Still, in our very first school year, in our very first school of thought, every single one of the students varied in a shade of brown, ranging from a light creamy cocoa to a dark, rich, robust chocolate. At 5 years old, we were unconscious of any lines of division. We were oblivious to the boxes meant to shape and build a binary patriarchal society. Soon, this well manipulated societal cast began revealing itself to us. Our young brain began receiving deliberate messages while our ancestral memories were being hidden in plain sight. We were forgetting who we were. The divide based on our understanding of race was more subtle in that phase of awareness. That presumed otherness was completely absent, aside from the name and the style of curriculum being taught to us. As they say, out of sight, out of mind. But the divide impacting our understanding of sexuality and gender during that period was blatant, obvious, and reoccurring. Looking back, we often wondered, was that part of some Masonic divide? Now, I think I want to go over this verse. I want to go over this passage because I feel like there is some need for breakdown in that particular passage. So, at age 5, we were unconscious of any lines of division, which means that we were oblivious to racism. We didn't know that racism existed at the age of 5. We were oblivious to the boxes meant to shape and build a binary patriarchal society. We didn't understand that we were living in a patriarchal society. We didn't know that, men were being exalted, the masculine was being exalted over the feminine. We didn't know that. Soon, this well manipulated society cast began revealing itself to us, so we would start to see these things. Our young brains began receiving deliberate messages while our ancestral memories were being hidden in plain sight. So the things that we felt and we knew, they were being hidden from us, which we could have saw if we were able to pay attention, but information was being given to us that was distracting us from what our ancestors were doing in plain sight. We were forgetting who we were. We were forgetting who we were. We were forgetting our ability to be able to take care of ourselves, to be able to live off the land. We were forgetting all of those things. We were forgetting, how our great grandmother had a garden and had plum trees and fig trees. Like, we was trying to just be invested in this matrix. So we were forgetting who our ancestors were and the power that they had. We were forgetting our healing power within ourselves, and that, feeling like we had to lean into the Bible and lean into that. We were forgetting who we were. The divide based on our understanding of race was more subtle in that phase of awareness, and it was because we never met any white people. The presumed otherness, which was the other races, was completely absent outside of the name of the school, which was named after a white man, and the style of curriculum was being taught to us. And so the way in which we were being taught was a colonial way. We were learning through colonial methods. So, we were learning and preparing ourselves for a white patriarchal society. So the way that we were being taught, the name of the school, the statue in the school, that was subtle to a 5-year old, because what 5-year old is sitting up here saying, "Oh, why is he white? Why are we being taught like this? Why are we learning like this? Why are we being indoctrinated in this way?" Like, 5-year olds aren't asking these questions. I was in the kindergarten, so it was subtle. It wasn't blatant. It wasn't nobody walking up saying, "Hey, you're white, he's black, you're beneath him." Like, that wasn't happening. So it was subtle. Um, Meanwhile, the divide impacting our understanding of sexuality and gender during that period was blatant, obvious, and reoccurring. Looking back, we often wonder, was that a part of some Masonic design? The Those presumed boys, and I'm intentional about doing that because these are constructs. Those presumed boys, by society standards, were only allowed to be socialized with boys. Those that were labeled girls were only allowed to be socialized with girls during those periods of recess or physical therapy. Those set guidelines were based on the assumption of children's genitals. The powers that be were separating young and impressionable beings based on the purpose and potential of their sex organs. That's a word right there. The powers that be were separating young and impressionable beings based on the purpose and potential of their sex organs. That's what I mean when I say bringing slaves here for this plantation. Those parts of our anatomy that do not mature until we enter puberty. The campus was divided. We were divided. We were being divided by the very systems and institutions that were governing us. We often ask ourselves, was education destined to open the doors in our minds and create more opportunities? Or was there a deeper agenda beneath those surface intentions? What we don't typically ask is, was it also designed to close doors within our souls, as well as limit spiritual awareness? Looking at society today, is there a wonder why there is such a huge divide in understanding between those who were born with somewhat opposing organs? We use the word somewhat intentionally because we know that we all start off as female inside of the womb. Then the X mutates, losing a limb, becoming a Y. The, next, a package drops along with hopes of fallopian tubes and a uterus in most cases. Though we are a multitude of variations that tend to fly under the radar and manage to stay suppressed. Amen, everyone. Of course, they want those narratives to be kept out of mainstream to guide the trajectory of modern day society. This is how they control who will be celebrated as normal and receive the most acknowledgments. As a child, we remember being given all sorts of masculine toys for Christmas on the year of our 5th birthday. I told y'all this story yesterday. There was a basketball, a football, a baseball, and a bat. None of them interest us. We remember our mother's warning: don't leave your toys on the front porch. Those boys who are our neighbors will steal them. This was, of course, because they didn't get any toys for Christmas. We remember playing with those toys for mere moments, seeing the look on the boys' faces as they stared at our toys through the screen door. We looked at them and thought it was a telepathic message being communicated. We then left all of our toys on the front porch and went in the backyard to play with our younger sister, Shell's Easy Bake Oven. We had so much fun, we made mud pies until the sun set. This is still our favorite Christmas memory. With that being said, from the very beginning, our rebellion was evident. We resisted the separation. We resisted without malicious or ill intent. We instinctively sought to only to be, to feel whole and free. Daily, those restrictions based on society's perceptions of who we were meant to be, we defiantly ignored. We continued to play with our kin, those presumed girls, those designated, those areas designated for girls, on the grounds of that institutionally controlled environment. On this alleged fundamental campus of socialization, we witness what will come to be labeled an aggressive or predatory behavior. The behavior was often expressed by those who wore the label boy. They would then be removed from the allotted spaces meant for girls and placed back into those areas designated for boys. Now, the question would become, are the boys learning this predatory behavior from toxic examples of the father who's probably chasing women, flirting with women, showing them porn videos? Like we don't like, because all boys weren't like that. And we could say that boys will be boys, but not so much. There's a grooming happening. And so, because all boys are not the same, all beings who identify as boys are not the same. So there's clearly a grooming that is happening when you see that predatory behavior pop up in some boys at a young age. Let's have that talk. This behavior is often expressed by those who wore the label of boys. They would be removed from the allotted spaces meant for girls and placed back into areas designated for boys. Even though this label was given to us, myself, we never had to be transported in such a manner. Some teachers looked upon us with disappointment. Others thought to each his own, and the rest didn't have much concern more than their paychecks. At 5 years of age, we didn't care much about what any of them thought. For us, life was new and exciting, and we were curious about everything. Curiosity can be a distraction, though, especially in a classroom setting. It can cause one to daydream on things not being discussed by the teacher. We recall the first time we experienced corporal punishment. It was at the hands of a Negro matron in service to the patriarch. That's what I called her. That's what I said. That's what I said. That's exactly what you heard. You heard me. Our kindergarten teacher was calling out to the students with the expectation we were paying attention. When it was our turn to recite the next letter in sequence, because she was doing the alphabets, we were not prepared. So we were physically we were there physically, but not there mentally. We were daydreaming, manifesting a world far away from the indoctrination and far away from the indoctrination of the classroom. She spoke our name, Lorraine. We snapped out of the haze to see a face filled with disappointment. Today, through reflection, we understand this disappointment extended far beyond our inability to recite the next letter in the alphabet. It was a projection based on her perception of who we needed to be in society. When we did not respond accordingly, that became the final straw. Now it was time to be punished, controlled, managed. It was rather strange when she offered to reward us with ice cream and cake. She offered she offered ever so sweetly before the entire class. Would you like some ice cream and cake? We eagerly exclaimed, yes! We followed her into the bathroom where she pulled out a paddle drilled with little holes. And in that, we later learned were used for suction. On the paddle were images of ice cream and white icing, double layered cake covered with chocolate chips. She proceeded to bestow upon our backside her version of those delicious desserts. Needless to say, they were more painfully traumatizing than tasty. Until this very day, we are not a huge fan of the combination of sugary treats as a result of that violent experience. And when I tell you, when I tell you this right here, when I tell you this right here, like, I don't like chocolate. I don't like ice cream and cake to this day. Like you will rarely, I will rarely eat ice cream and cake together. I will rarely eat ice cream and cake together. I just that's how traumatizing that was. Talk about irony. Not even 30 years ago, most adults still very much in support of corporal punishment as a whole. But today, in the midst of all the violence, our nation continues to insert itself into gatekeep. Insert itself, all the way. Not even 30 years ago, most adults were still very much into the support of corporal punishment as a whole. But today, even in the midst of all the violence, our nation continues to insert itself into. Gatekeepers are still echoing to the masses that violence is not the answer. The sheer hypocrisy of it all. Okay, violence is not the answer, yet we always in a war. In the coming years, we would associate every time we were called to an office or a private space by one with perceived authority with being punished. It was all because of the happenings on that fateful day. We carried this trauma with us the following year when we moved to Bogalusa, Louisiana. Also called, we also recalled that campus being divided. This continued for us until the third grade. First grade was quite different. We interacted with boys. We were treated as not only like a girl, but more like a queen. We were courted by one of the most known boys in the first grade. We participated in a ritual much like an actual marriage. We exchanged nuptials with him under a tree. with all the most popular boys in the first grade witnessing as they gathered in support. Get into that. That's what happened in the first grade, child. But I digress. Baby, baby, spirit see spirit, soul see soul. We so about we exchanged notes from da, 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 da. We would have his best friend guard us during each recess. The monkey bars were shaped like a small castle, was ours. No one was allowed to be on them but us. And when he would return from chasing girls, he would kiss us on the ear every day. That's a whole story, one of many I could tell from our childhood, to be honest. But this was also much like our second grade recollection. Let's stay focused though. Now, where were we? Oh, yes. Heading to the principal's office, carrying the mental devastation of being called into a private space by yet another in power. This time, it was the absolute authority of our school. She was Caucasian. This made it even scarier. There we were sitting in class when our name was called over the intercom to go to the principal's office. We instantly began replaying those moments with our kindergarten teacher all over again in our minds. We cried all the way there only to find our grandmother had purchased us a school jacket. The trauma the trauma our first educational practitioner unleashed in that well-insulated bathroom was still hovering over us like a shadowy gray cloud. It went on for years to come. We often wondered if the spiritual violence we sustained through being divided in those critical years did more harm than the actual physical violence used to contain our wandering minds. Now that's real. Like, was the divide that was happening in those primary grades, kindergarten, the first grade, at kindergarten, the first grade, and I think we were divided in the second grade too. And then in the third grade, I think they stopped dividing us. They let us play with each other. They might have divided us in the. They might have divided us in the. They might have stopped dividing us in the second grade. I think they might have stopped dividing us in the second. I think we were divided in the kindergarten and the first grades. And so these are like primary grades. And so the division that we sustained during those times, I'm wondering if that played a greater impact. And I think it did, because in my teens and in my early 20s, I felt like I was in opposition with females. I felt like I was in opposition with women, and I can't help but think, because in the first grade, I felt like me and her, the girl he used to be chasing after when he left me at the monkey bars, I felt like she was my competition, and I was at the phase of understanding that I was different, because I took baths with my sisters and we stopped taking baths, with each other around kindergarten, first grade. We stopped taking baths with each other. And so, I started to realize that, okay, I guess I am different in a way. And so that just kind of like reinforced those differences that I had by them separating us in kindergarten and the first grade. I started to see beings who were born with wombs, who were on the other side of the yard, as my opposition. And I think that a lot of trans people have those deep-rooted, male to female trans women have those deep-rooted issues in their mind that they have not taken the time to work through. There was some spell magic done on us in the kindergarten and the first grade to cause us to see us as divided from womb bearers. And I was listening to this live earlier where she was talking about how it was only womb bearers on earth, and I kept asking the question in the comment section, were these womb bearers women as we understand them to be, or were they intersex beings? Because the divide had not happened yet. Were the angels coming down to sleep with beings who were self-propelled and able to procreate on their own? Were the angels coming down and sleeping with beings who had both the vagina and the phallic, but the phallic was perhaps smaller? So, like, were these self-propelled beings? Because when we say womb manifestation, we're understanding that this is the man and the woman together. And so when we say one man, we're not speaking one man today. We're not speaking as the woman who is here now um, after the DNA has de-evolved, or after the DNA is sort of recessed, it's kind of went the opposite way of evolution, just to make sure that I'm being clear. And so the same beings that we're calling women now weren't the same kind of women that existed when the angels came here. And no one is really giving me like that type of clarity. No one's really answering that question. People are kind of like dodging that question because y'all, when we say God is a woman, but what kind of woman? What kind? Anyway, by third grade, we felt subliminally that we were meant to be at odds with beings born with vaginas. Exactly. That's what I just affirmed it with the next line. By third grade, we felt subliminally that we were meant to be at odds with beings born with a vagina. Now we understand that this was because of the adoration we received in their absence from boys. This also happens when you go to jail. A lot of my sisters will be in and out of jail because that's a place where they could receive adoration and be centered as the woman when the females are absent. Because the only cis woman that's gonna be there is probably a guard or security. So a lot of trans or femme leaning beings will go to prison or will go to jail purposely to be the center, to be the apple of his eye. Amen, a woman. Um, Now we understand that this was because of the adoration we received in the absence from boys, and maybe that's why some of my sisters went to the military before they transitioned. No tea, no shade. We did not think that way before the fundamental foundation was applied. Our mother bathed us all together. We remember seeing ourselves still the same, just with different parts. We played together. We were not bound by the roles associated with sex organs. Because I remember my cousins would pretend to be the boy and I would be the girl. And I mean, like, they were born with vaginas and I was born with a penis. And we literally would reverse the roles when we played games. Like, the girls would be the boys and the boys would be the girls. We weren't bound by those social constructs. It was the school that told us we were different. It was the elementary campus that placed us at odds. It was the schools that held our minds captive for 8 hours, destroying and rebuilding our vulnerable minds. They were dividing us from our siblings. They were fortifying patriarchy. Patriarchy. Capital punishment was a sound, corporal punishment was a sound method. Today, we don't fault our kindergarten teacher. She was most likely an unconscious cog in a greater machine. She no doubt had bought into the notion that our penis meant we were destined to be more or go further. She felt she was preparing us with tough love. She was doing what she had been bred and colonized to do. There was a harsh reality upon which we were about to embark. Ugly, painful lessons needed to be taught in order to survive. We needed to experience those violent interruptions. They would call our minds to focus on the spell that was being cast, lulling us into a slumberous psychosis and steadfast obedience. Just as it had been done to much of our direct ancestors, those who were the products of conquered aboriginals and captured Africans for centuries prior. We don't recall if she was our first time receiving physical disciplinary action, which means I can't remember if my mom ever whooped me before that. That's the first whooping I remember. It was definitely the first time we remembered, though. It is still stitched in our minds like an emotional war wound. We're truly thankful to the ancestors of the truly thankful to the ancestors the world sends our way to help shape and awaken our whole selves, our dormant selves. Our kindergarten's teacher's name, for those wondering, was Miss Proper. How befitting. She was a proper example of a harsh truth. She is a teacher we will never forget. She gave us the first piece of childhood, our first piece of childhood trauma, but she didn't break our spirits because we still never stopped daydreaming. And there's a picture of me. Oh. So, so that is the first recollecting reflection. Nobody wants to talk about intersex. It's a shame. I wish more people would discuss it. Stay, the grandparents stay clutch with the winter coats. A spectrum indeed. Yeah, so that's the first recollection. Tomorrow, for those of you who have your books, tomorrow we are going to do, for those of you who have your books, tomorrow we're going to do Let the Church Say Amen. And I'm going to start off the live with Let the Church Say Amen. I'm going to start off the live with Let the Church Say Amen. And I'm moving into this phase of just really like I feel like I'm being called to just like go over this book. Like I feel like it's time to start dissecting this book, and it's time to start getting in this book like we get into that word and like we get into the Bible. And so we definitely about to go through this book. So for those of you who actually have a copy of the book, if you want to read over it, if it's some questions that you have, if it's some notes that you want to share, please do. Please do. I invite the conversation. I wrote this book during a very spiritual time in my life. I did some fasting during this time. And I was trying to make sure that I was always clear-headed when I was writing, and just really, really thoughtful about, not trying to create adversaries or monsters in this book, and just like holding space for the dynamics, that can make someone appear to be opposition, but really they're just as important to you becoming who you are in the celestial design, in the greater design. So tomorrow we will be reading the second recollecting reflection, which is called Let the Church Say Amen. This is a good one. Oh baby, we getting into it then, baby. We gonna get into it. And the chapters just keep getting more interesting. I'm thinking about doing a second book. The second book is gonna be more based in when I went to Africa, when I came back from Africa after I lived in Africa for 9 months, and it's gonna have a whole lot of Laylim Layler stories. Like that's what I think is gonna be the second testament for me. But this is definitely the first testament. I feel like I want to start working on the second. Well, I already have the second testament written. I just need to, flush it out, and just send it to a publisher. But I'm going to publish my mom's book first. So that's definitely going to be next on the agenda to get my mama's book published. But yeah, Let the Church Say Amen is the next one we're going over tomorrow. So, Yeah, and this is a good one, y'all. We gonna really dig into some stuff with that. But later on today, at some point, I will go live and light a candle, and in honor of our ancestors. I will go live, or I will create a video, because I haven't done that, because I have been doing the videos outside. Because right now I am staying, at my sister's space here in New York, and I just want to be respectful of the space, because sometimes I could get loud, I could get passionate, I could get emotional. So I feel like I want to, like, respect the space, and so that's why I come outside to do my lives. But yeah, I'm gonna be moving around again next week. But I feel like I have not lit a candle enough want to live this since I've been here. I know y'all have it in y'all spiritually to understand the importance of that with Laylim Layler, but I am gonna light a candle at some point today. And yeah, that's it. Thank you, Aaron, and thank you to my moderators who were on and left, because I think 100% Pure Love was on here, and Hey Faith was on here for a second. But Uh, Golden Queen, you didn't really say much today. I was kind of shocked. But anyway, down but the now that I say cool, it keeps spinning and turning. Iangani, Iyanko, Kalukalo, which means I am a child of God Goddess. If I am, you know you are. Bounding around both circle and square, we too speak life, so operations beware, sending healing to those in despair. El Babosawa, which means we come in peace, no harm to any. Lay lim, lay lur. I love y'all. Have a great day. Later. Lay lim, lay lur nation. Purple ones rise.